What is up, guys? Alex the Magician here, back for the continuation of the Heroes 3 Spells Explained series. So in this one, we're going to be covering Tier 5 spells. So once again, this is a Heroes 3 Best Spells guide. And I'm basically going to be explaining and demonstrating the use of these spells to you guys. So, as far as level 5 spells go, it has some of the best spells in the game. And the first one I'd like to talk about is arguably the best spell in the game, certainly the best damage spell in the game. That is Implosion. Implosion does ridiculous damage, and it is best used against a single power stack, right? So if your opponent has many stacks and they're all kind of spread out, his fighting power is kind of spread out across, 5 stacks, then it's probably better to use something like Chain Lightning so that you can damage all of them. But if he has one stack, or one stack that's particularly dangerous that you really want to get rid of as quickly as possible, then you would like to use Implosions. So you don't even need Earth Magic for it. Most of the damage comes from the spell power, so at expert level, it only adds an additional 300 damage, and I believe at basic, actually don't quite remember, but it's something like 75 additional damage. Yeah. Oh, it's 100. So at expert level, you basically only gain 200 damage. Not that much, right? It's mostly relying on your spell power. So just to demonstrate really quickly, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it looks cool. So boom, we go into Utopia and immediately 8 green dragons became 2 green dragons. So you can hit and run Utopias with it. I've done that before. You can hit and run your opponent or, Implo Surrender or something like that. So really, if you have Implosion, it can overcome a lot of army. You can even fight on no army and just Implosion, as long as you are able to outspeed your opponent or, have enough to be able to, like, Implo Surrender and whatnot. Alright, so the next one that I'd like to talk about is the summon elementals, right? So we can talk about all 4 of them at once. So it's summon air elemental, summon fire elemental, summon water elemental, and summon earth elemental. So all 4 of them are the same. Obviously, they summon, the elementals of that particular element. Having air magic or, the school of magic for whatever elemental you're summoning is much better. So here you can see at basic level, it is spell power times 2. At advanced, it's going to be spell power times 3. And at expert, it's spell power times 4. So, of course, having a lot of spell power does help, but it's a big difference between 48 elementals and 24 elementals, right? So, as far as these go, the earth elementals are the best since they are the strongest. They will help you the most. But there can be certain situations where other elementals might be better. Like, for example, if you're trying to go for or if you're afraid of Meteor Shower, because Earth Elementals are vulnerable to Meteor Shower, it does double damage to them, then you could try to summon, Water Elementals, maybe Fire Elementals, right? Interestingly enough, Earth Elementals and Fire Elementals both are immune to Armageddon. So if you're looking for like Armageddon hit and runs, or trying to Arma Surrender or something like that, you can do it with both Earth and Fire. Water is probably the worst one because they are 2 hex units, so they're slightly more awkward to maneuver, slightly more awkward to fight with. I would even say that air, even though they're weaker, they probably are better. I probably dislike water elementals the most. And the thing is that you're not often going to have water magic, right? You're more often going to have earth or air, and so getting water magic for water elementals, it's kind of like, man. Alright, and real quick, I want to demonstrate my most favorite use of elementals, and that would be doing Utopias. So you can hit and run Utopias like this. All you would do is bring 1-stacks and then just spam summon elementals, and you know, it doesn't even matter, like, with this amount of spell power and these stats, 48 elementals, you know, just a few summons, and that will be completely enough to finish this. And at the end here, we can just resurrect one of our Goblin 1-stacks. If we did not have resurrect, then we could just... let's see... then we could just surrender when there's like 1 dragon, or retreat when there's like 1 dragon left, and then we would be able to finish it on, you know, just a little bit of army with a side hero. So, but here, since we do have resurrect, not really a need to do that. Of course, he goes for the... Alright, we'll do it again. And there we go. So easy as that. Alright, and after that, so let's just talk about the other spells that there are. The other good ones are the control spells, Dimension Door and Fly. So with Fly, you are able to move across obstacles like this, obstacles or army, you know, something like that. So it can come in handy. You move at basic level or without air magic, you move at 60% penalty, or I mean 40% penalty, sorry. So you move 60% of your normal movement across obstacles. So basically, if I was able to move like over here normally, right, then moving across the mountains would cut that movement down a little bit. At advanced level, you move at 80% your regular movement. At expert level, it negates the penalty. And it also negates penalty across rough terrain. At basic level, it doesn't really do that much. It only reduces, so from the normal 150 movement points per hex, it would go down to 140. At expert level, it cuts it down to no penalty across any terrain. So really useful if you can have expert air magic. However, the problem with Fly is that it's a control spell. It's considered a control spell like Town Portal and Dimension Door, but it's the worst control spell. And a lot of times, so the value, you know, you can have these scrolls, the control scrolls, right? I don't really see any scrolls here in the center, or like this, right? This could be a big scroll, probably not a control scroll, depending on the box, or this could be a control scroll. The point is, the value of a control scroll is 20k, which is the same as the value of a relic. So you have to fight, basically, a relic guard to get a control scroll, and when you do that, you know, you usually have to fight a lot of army to get that, and you end up getting Fly. You're pretty disappointed about that. So definitely the worst control spell that you can have. Alright, and as far as Dimension Door goes, Dimension Door is really nice. It allows you to basically teleport, right? It teleports you across, you know, a certain amount of land. On Jebus Cross, you can only use it once per day. On templates that have Underground, like XL plus Use and I think G plus Use, well, maybe not G plus Use. G plus Use might be 3, but on XL plus Use, I believe you can use them twice. You can use Dimension Door twice. I think on Jebus Outcast you're allowed to use it twice as well because it does have an underground, kind of closed underground section. So it is cool. There are interesting uses for it. For example, it can allow you to reach further distances. Like, let's say if I were in this town, right? So let's assume that, for example, I'm trying to go in this direction, right? And I'm trying to reach, I don't know, something like an enemy hero over here. And let's say, you know, if I go around like this, right, I cannot do it. However, with Dimension Door, you would be able to teleport right here, and see, normally this would be 1,800 moves if you don't have fly, if you don't have Dimension Door. Well, of course, if we kill the Minotaurs here, it would be less, but that's a lot of moves, right? With Dimension Door, it only uses 300 movement points. So it can allow you to reach much further distances if you teleport correctly. Like something like this saves you a lot of movement since this road is kind of a roundabout like that. Now, a couple of tricks about Dimension Door is that you can actually teleport with only 100 moves remaining if you're on terrain, not on the road. So normally it costs 300, but if your hero only has 100 moves left, if you are on off-road, you will still be able to teleport. If you're on the road, then you can teleport with only 50 moves remaining. So just keep that in mind. That can allow you to reach even farther. Like if you're, if you don't know if your opponent is like here or not, and you're just trying to get as far as possible on your turn, or you're trying to run away or whatever, you can move if you're on the road until your last 50 moves and then teleport on your last move, and that will allow you to cover maximum distance. Alright, and the other ones I'm just going to kind of talk about. Magic Mirror, and you also have... you have Sacrifice, but apparently Conflux does not get Sacrifice? That's interesting. Didn't know that. Well, you learn something new, guys, every day, apparently. I just learned something. So, apparently Sacrifice is something that can only be rolled in the Mage Guild of Inferno, Necropolis, and Dungeon. And even though I do have the Aurora Borealis here that gives me all spells, you cannot have, so Conflux still does not get Sacrifice. And also Armageddon is something that Conflux doesn't get. I did not know that, but anyway. So Sacrifice is a spell that is like Resurrect. Let me just find a Fire Tome somewhere. Is there a Fire Tome anywhere? Okay, I don't see a Fire Tome anywhere. Well, whatever. So I guess I'll just talk about this one. So Sacrifice is a spell that allows you to resurrect your units. It works without fire magic. You can use it without fire magic, unlike with Resurrect that you need advanced fire or earth magic for you to keep your units after the fight. With Sacrifice, you will keep your units no matter what, but it requires you to sacrifice some creatures in order to resurrect. And the effect is going to be based on the sacrificed creature's health, right? And there are some creatures that cannot be sacrificed, like, for example, I think undead you cannot sacrifice, elementals you cannot sacrifice, and obviously the fire immune. But as far as an actual game type situation, it's not that common for you to actually use sacrifice, because for one, it requires you to actually have creatures that you will be able to sacrifice, which in some cases you may not actually have for it to do some significant amount of resurrection on the stacks that you actually do want. Sometimes it comes in handy. It's more common to possibly see it in something like Jebus Outcast, where regular resurrect is not available. But yeah, not really a tier 5 spell that you want. Usually, when you fight for a tier 5 scroll, or you go for like the pyramid or something like that, and you get sacrifice, then it's not something that you want. Or if you get it in your mage guild, that's also not something you usually want. And the last one that we're going to talk about, the last tier 5 spell, Magic Mirror. It has a chance of reflecting the hostile spells towards an enemy creature at basic level 20%, at expert level 40%. Also not something that you really want to use. You don't see it that often. It can help, and usually it helps more when it's a passive thing, like the Genie cast or the Fairy Dragons that have it naturally, that can reflect. I'm sure you guys saw that some of those clips, like the Haystack one, where he implodes Fairy Dragons and it gets reflected into his Cyclops stack. So it can happen, but you're usually not going to be wasting your cast and 25 spell points or 20 spell points at expert level on a 40% chance of reflecting a hostile spell. It's usually going to be much better to use something like anti-magic if you're going to do that. So, usually not a tier 5 spell that you want. Alright guys, so that does it for the tier 5 spells, and that does it for the Heroes 3 Spells Explained series. I hope that you guys learned something in these videos, and yeah, as always, check out my Twitch stream if you guys are interested in more Heroes 3 English-speaking content, link in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next video, and hopefully on my stream. Peace out.